Hello and welcome back to 922. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after finding out that perhaps Spencer is not actually dead, that he's not a ghost or anything, but that there seems to be some sort of... maybe not, I wanted to say multiversal, but, it's not that. It's, there's something going on where apparently Spencer and Kurt, and perhaps Mr. Fisher, because he seems to be involved in this, find themselves in an alternate world that is progressing without them, and that seems to make everyone believe that Spencer is a ghost, because supposedly he died in an alternate world, or in this world, or something, but then all of a sudden he's also alive. So yeah. The Spencer that Kurt was dealing with earlier, that was apparently his friend, is the one that died, and this Spencer, or a previous Spencer or whatever, is a living one, and they're related to Mr. Fisher. Both of them were, I guess, or something. It's getting a little confusing, honestly, but also kind of intriguing because, what is going on? How was Mr. Fisher involved? Did he really actually kill his grandson? But then, what he's just dealing with his other grandson, being oh, well, I guess I didn't kill him. And then there's Kurt. Why did it take him all this time, to come up and, well, not even tell him the truth, but, why did you wait for Spencer to, put one and two together? Anywho, so hopefully we'll get some answers. I believe that this is the second to the last chapter, so yeah. Anywho, so without further ado, let us continue 922. There is a Dairy Queen on the corner of Pine and Linden, and behind that there is a parking lot. This parking lot is special. It's on a hill, and it just so happens that, if you squint, you're just barely able to make out the entrance to the bomb shelter. It's a shame that I never learned from my mistakes, arriving early once again. Without any benches or anything, really, I'm forced to come up with a story. My car broke down and I'm waiting for the tow truck. That's what I tell them. The hypothetical person who will confront me about pacing around the parking lot for half an hour. God, this fucking headache. I dare to sneak the 102nd peak towards the north. As expected, the bomb shelter didn't disappear between now and the 101st. Still a bland concrete cube, jutting out from behind some trees. One blurry guard is on his phone while the other, if I had to guess, has his earphones in. An odd sense of nostalgia pervades the back of my mind. The shelter seemed so innocuous back when I first met Kurt. All I'd wanted was to sneak into school, as a good student does. Back then, the stakes were merely the $20 that I have in my wallet and, had I been lucky, my ass. It is 8:46. Hey, you're late. Neither of us offer any pleasantries. Last time he messaged me was 5 a.m. I did not sleep a minute tonight. I don't think that he did either. Kurt's plan is absolutely bonkers, but I can't afford to question anything any longer. It's nothing complicated, I tell him. He insists to go over it one last time. On my signal, we sprint to the shelter. The guards we already have dealt with once were there. The door has a padlock on it and an aftermarket keypad. You yell if some bullshit comes up. Once I'm done fucking with the door and it's open, we'll wait for another signal. Whatever that may be. And then we go in. We get no second chances. If you go off to do some of your own shit, we die. You die. For real. Whatever, Mom. How's your nausea doing? Ate anything? Nah. Man, no way. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to keep it down. Well, do your best. Things are about to get real fucky. My stomach cramps in anticipation. How fucky? Unbelievably fucky. The fuckiest. You're gonna hate it so much. Hey, by the way. Kurt cranes his neck to look past the cars. Can you tell me what's going on with the shelter right now? Huh? Describe it to me. Just do it. I squint towards the shelter. Ah, fuck. My neck feels like it's in a vice. You seen this? 'Cause I sure don't. Yeah? Kurt? Who was I speaking to? Right, that's our cue. Run. He's fucking booking it. Shit. Wait! My calves seize up as he sprints out of the parking lot. Son of a bitch. That was his signal? When did he decide that he's capable of moving so fast? Move! I stumble, twist, and smack my knuckles against a car. A shockwave of pain radiates through my nervous system. Suddenly, I'm moving. The silhouette of parked cars moves one by one past my line of sight, then a fence, and then the Dairy Queen's sign. I'm on the street. The route. What was the route? I came here a whole ass hour earlier just to memorize where the fuck should I go. Someone turns a corner somewhere in the distance. I start towards wherever that is. Pray to God that was Kurt. I sprint for what feels like hours past the school's fence. My lungs are burning and it feels like I burned another hole through my throat. The buildings. I was supposed to be on the other side here. I jump into the road. Some fucker honks at me once my feet hit the sidewalk again. There's a playground. It smells like piss. I made it. I'm... The kind of clearance that you got there, mister, it's not any of my business. If you ain't on the list, you ain't going in. Brilliant way to start the day. Show up half the damn facility out in the front lawn, and I'm being held out by a goddamn child. My boss is a fella right there. You see him? His name is Roger Gill. I gesture past him into the crowd. Roger is yapping along at Danny and Paul in some suit that I don't recognize. He's a first lieutenant. That good enough for you? He follows my finger, as a good boy should. Mr. Gill, sir, hey. What's going on? Mind lending me a hand? Sir. Morning, John. Security giving you trouble, Go pour yourself a mug and head over to Auditorium B. We had a minor incident overnight. Once Lisa shows up, I'll debrief everyone in. The private squints at the clipboard where Roger is pointing his pencil to. John Swain. Spencer. Fucking answer me. Oh God. Holy shit, you really are impossible to get through. My consciousness returns just in time to feel that my legs had turned to jelly. I fall on my knees. What the fuck was that? Don't tell me that you're losing it already. I'm getting started on the door. Make sure that these morons don't wake up. What? What the fuck was that? Ignore it. Ignore it? Oh God. Oh fuck. There's a pair of legs sticking out of the bush. It's the guard that was on his phone. The other one is slumped against the tree. His eyes are open. Is he crying? I push my tongue hard against the roof of my mouth and aim my snout fully up just to keep the world from spinning. What the fuck did you do? Payback. You know what? Why don't you ask me again in a couple of minutes? What? This doesn't fucking work. What doesn't? The keypad. I can't get it open. It's fucking... It's... I squeeze my eyes shut. 5992. Really would have liked to know that before we got here. Whatever. Remember, I go in, you stay here. Right. He disappears down the shelter stairs. How'd you know? Huh? Who? Kurt's looking down at me like I'm a child who scraped his elbow. What? The code to the door. How did you know it? Oh. I saw it in a dream. Okay, cool, you're still an asshole. Got me worried for a moment there. I blink a couple of times trying to get my eyes to focus. What were you gonna do if I didn't know it? Magnet. Remember that Todd kid from the bowling alley? He taught me a couple of things. Turns out that these keypads are mostly for show. So you can definitely see me, right? I guess. Good. Let's go. Delta 6. Copy. Proceed to Delta 7. Looking terrific today, John. Save it. You're just trying to ring me out. 10 hours in a civilian craft again. He's gotta. How long will you be gone for? Couple of weeks with the missus, and after that another week back home. Had to beg him for permission to fly me. Man's acting like I won't return. Well... What? You know something? Delta 7. Copy. Proceed to Delta 8. Just a November incident again. They got a committee going for it. You hear about that? Established last week. I heard. Hall has been brought in for questioning. He tells me that they fancy that things are more serious than what the initial report made it out to be. How serious? Shutting down the project serious. You don't think that they will? Rather they don't. Tone. I like this job. Well... Whatever happens, it's been a pleasure to work with you two. Delta 8. Copy. Proceed to Delta 9. Good luck. Out. Keep it together, man. We're almost there. You still with me? Keep it together. We're almost there. Keep it together? Keep it together? It's every day now, John. Every day something new doesn't add up. Every day they have me drive to Oakfield so that I could compare records with something that they dug up in Kazakhstan. And it's always insane. This is beyond counterintelligence. No, this has to be the real deal. We screwed up bad. He goes mute and stares down at his shoes, pretending to think. Never seen Cliff this agitated. Morale's gone to shit while I was gone, understandably, but Cliff is on a whole new level. Are we still on about the eastern buildings, even under a doomsday scenario, how bad could it have possibly been? He frowns at his feet. Sad as it might be, it's only a handful of contractors and a bunch of concrete. Wish that it stopped there. Did it not? It's classified. He isn't allowed to tell me. That said, if I stay still for a couple of moments, he might. There's a section on Weston Avenue down in the city. You ever go there? Doesn't ring a bell. Do you remember True Mountain Diner? We celebrated Sherry Green's birthday over there last year. Got it. The swamp. That's right. The swamp. You want to hear something about the swamp? The county had it drained 25 years ago. The city plan doesn't make a lick of sense had they not. Don't you think that it's funny how there's a chunk of town that had never been zoned? Can't say that I ever gave it any thought. It isn't only us who's missing people, or some construction crew. People used to live there, John. Spare me. What's the damage? Hundreds of people, of households, going by what we assume would have been built had it been built in the past couple of decades. Are you sure about this? You're hilarious, John. Am I sure about something that for all intents and purposes has never existed? Of course I'm sure. What the devil are you wearing? I'm wet. There's no square inch of my clothes that isn't drenched in sweat. The sting of acid persists no matter how much I spit or in which way I contort my tongue. Vomit's fucking everywhere, on my hands, on the toilet seat, on the walls and floors of the bathroom. My stomach lurches but nothing comes out. There's nothing left. That was new. I flinch. Fuck, some of it got in my nose. Kurt's still standing there where I left him, motionless in front of the shitty boy's room mirror, hands limp on the sink. We really went for a ride there, huh? You alright? What time is it? Fishing the phone out of my jeans pocket is like reaching down into a sewage drain. 9:44. We're safe. Kurt's face twists into a crooked smile. What'd you think? Pretty cool, yeah? I guess it was alright. He attempts a high-pitched wheeze of a cackle. Welcome back to the land of the living, dumbass. You're welcome. Police show up and then paramedics. They watch from the classroom Andrew hastily prepared for us on the Jefferson Building's top floor. We watch them load up the guards Kurt fucked up on this side of the basement into an ambulance. The ambulance crew is not in any hurry. At least, physically, the two are fine. Students and staff leave en masse just as a troop wearing all black arrives. Caps, sunglasses, rifles. We silently watch to them stomp around and shout at one another on the lower floors. When the commotion finally dies down, it remains quiet for hours. Then, at 10:29 at night, the engines on their jeeps ignite one after the other, and they gently roar away. I slept like a mop. One moment I'm watching Kurt's fingers drumming away on his knee, and the next moment I'm on the floor, in the corner. It's daylight now, 7:35 a.m. Early students are chatting away down at the plaza. I tiptoe towards the window to look at them, as to not wake Kurt up. There's been a break-in yesterday, one of them tells another. The other one responds, he heard that someone tried to steal shit from the basement. The basement? The first one asks. Yeah, says the second. Don't you know the tale? Come 10:01, the lock to the classroom clanks open. A bleary-eyed Andrew escorts us silently to one of the campus's exit-only gates. The hot water in Kurt's apartment never runs out, so I stand in the shower looking at water droplets slide down the tile. Thoughts lazily drift into consciousness for me to consider before dissipating away into the back of my mind. My calves groan in pain, my knees won't stop shaking. My arms are wrapped around me because no matter how warm the water is, my fur won't stop standing on end. Hours go by. My throat hurts from rinsing my mouth when Kurt finally decides to knock. He yells at me, "You got a message." I step out with a towel around my waist. We check my phone. It's Fisher. He wants to meet up. Can I be honest with you boys? You two are really starting to piss me off. That stunt you pulled, you can't even begin to imagine the amount of risk that you put us all into. Very clever otherwise. There had been attempts to establish communication between folks and their mirrors, you know. Always in a lab setting, of course, and never successfully enough. Believe the term that they used at the time was suicidal. He laughs and tosses a french fry into his mouth. What did I tell you, Spencer? Is this guy resourceful or what? You fellows not hungry? It'll get cold if you stare at it for too long. You... Go on. We're all friends here. You backed us into a corner. What do you think that we were gonna do? Kurt's words come out in monotone, just barely above a whisper, like someone turned the volume on him all the way down. Nothing as spectacular, that's for sure. I knew that you were gonna pull something eventually, but I'm no fortune teller. You ain't as predictable as Spencer here. Joke's on me. Don't take it the wrong way, but in the back of my mind, I kind of assumed that you'd fail no matter what you two would have done. Case in point. He puts his burger down as he could dig around in his coat. Here. He slides a phone in between our trays. A phone? This lobotomy patient's phone. No one ever tell you not to use your birthday as a password. Kurt moves his hand towards it. Fisher makes no signs of stopping him. Gotta hand it to you. What you got on there is some serious good work. Learned a couple of things that I didn't know, and I'd been here myself in the flesh. When an archaeologist finds all of this out in 1,000 years, they'll be beyond themselves to read such a complete story. Kurt drags the phone down into his knees. Shit. Hope you liked what you saw. Fisher bursts out laughing. You bet I did. Is that what you're worried about? That I think less of you because of your work relationship with Andrew Park? Young man, someone like me is the last person to get judgmental over how you accomplish your goals. You know about these two, Spencer? I'm not surprised. It's none of my business. Attaboy. So, is that what this is? What do you think it is? You're gloating. You bring me out here so that you could look me in the eye and say nothing that I do matters. Is that really what this is? Just kill me now if you don't really care. Don't be an idiot. He clears his throat. There's a reason why our little meeting's in a food court as opposed to some empty lot. I'm not here to kill you. You know that I won't. You would not have come here if you thought any other way. Though, let me tell you, if you start getting any bright ideas... He presses on the side of the coat meaningfully. It's the outline of a gun. You can't imagine how hard it is to choke someone to death. As you've demonstrated, I'm no longer in a position where I can take chances with you kids. If I wanted either of you dead, you would have been dead, got it? You would have been so dead, so long ago. He picks up a fry, swirls it around in ketchup, and waves it at Kurt. You know why, don't you? Not really. Bah, don't give me that. Do you want to make any guesses, Spencer? He's looking at me. He wants me to talk. My jaw aches from staying clenched for so long. You... won't risk it, won't you? That's what this is, isn't it? You'll die. Somehow. You don't want to die. Is that not what you said? Nice to see your ears aren't just for show after all. He shoves a fry in his mouth. Why'd I call you here? That's the reason. You and I, the three of us, we're in a bind. I can't get rid of you. And let me tell you a secret. You can't get rid of me either. So I'm sitting in my car last night, just finished up doing damage control with the mess that you made. And I'm thinking to myself, old man, why are you still playing this game? You could tell, couldn't you? I stopped sabotaging the fellas a while ago. I didn't get lazy, if that's what you thought. Figured that if I let you do your thing, you'd eventually unearth enough material to deter you from messing with the gate. Know what? Now that I think about it, that must be a mistake I made. It's likely no coincidence that you weren't able to. What are you on about? Fisher takes a sip of Pepsi. You don't happen to believe in fate, do you? Think about it. Had you found out about it, Andrew Park would have found out about it as well. That guy, he's not like us. He doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. He would have just relayed the information to someone else, and someone else would have relayed it to the world, and then the entire town goes kaput. What? Don't suppose folks your age still listen to the radio? 5 car crashes since yesterday. The talk radio hosts are barely able to string a sentence together. Hell, look around you. He waves his burger towards the few people in the court. Did you not take notice? It took 10 minutes to get my damn order in. It's not only you two and the cashier that have mush for brains today. The security personnel that I had posted that you had disposed of. What you've done to them is happening to a lesser extent, to everyone. People in a 20-mile radius are walking around feeling like they forgot what they were doing 5 minutes ago. How about that? That's on you, fellas. Your little stunt did that, and it would be a happy miracle if that much is the only thing that it caused. Alright, I hear you. I'm putting the cart before the horse, making all these accusations. You want to know what's going on, don't you? One of the fries seems to catch his attention. He pushes it aside, dusts off his hands, and tears open a new ketchup packet. Pay attention. The RLG, Rockland Looking Glass, in official documentation, is a natural phenomenon that we dug up in the 60s. Total accident as far as I know. It's a gate, as in a passage between two places. What are these places? He pauses to push aside his hill of ketchup packets to reveal a mayo one. Having squeezed all the ketchup out from the last packet onto his tray, he tears into it as well. RLG primary and RLG secondary, that's what the gate connects. A bit of a mouthful, that. So we always call them World A and World B. Get used to the terms. When someone from World A goes through the gate, he ends up on World B and vice versa. And the thing about them is that they're identical. Everything in each world's history up until today is exactly the same. You with me? Kurt's been chewing on the same bite for 5 minutes. He swallows and nods. And you? Go on. Swell. There is a problem with what I said. How do we know that there is a gate between the two worlds if they're completely identical in every way? That's the main history lesson. The crew who dug up the tunnel in the first place lost their minds. What was later discovered is that since both worlds are identical, the same person will be crossing from A to B and from B to A at the same time. But, for whatever reason, one of those two identical people would be lost, and the remaining person would come out of either A or B. Those poor ignorant men were going in and out of the RLG site multiple times a day. And I'm sure that you saw what happens when you mess around with it. Symptoms not unlike my security crews yesterday. The last of them I heard passed away in 1991. Not to pour salt on your wounds, but rest assured that he had not led a happy life. Got any questions so far? Why are you telling us this? That's cold, Spencer. I just told you that you'd given permanent brain damage to 4 people, and you won't even act shocked? He squeezes a mayo right out onto the ketchup and starts mixing the concoction around with the end of a fry. My gamble is that you'll leave the gate alone once you get it in your head just how mental your antics are. Any non-stupid questions? The worlds are identical? Right. Does it matter if you're going into the Institute or out of it? No, you only have to cross the gate. Which side is the real one? The worlds are identical, the same, equal. One isn't more real than the other. What was I saying? Right. As I said, suddenly there is a person that only exists on one of the worlds. What happens then? There is now a discrepancy, a desync. World A continues as if a person is missing, while World B does not. And for the most part, that's okay. It depends on who they are, naturally, but in general things keep going in parallel just fine. An average Joe going through about their day-to-day life isn't going to change the world in a day. In a day. I'm phrasing it that way because that part's important. The brainiacs are still poring over this one, but every morning the discrepancy seems to fix itself. I bet my shiniest nickel that you two have noticed. Everyone experiences it a bit differently, but things go a bit funny for a moment and then... Bam! The world slams back into alignment. History has rewritten itself. You don't know what I'm talking about, Spencer. Fisher stabs a fry in Kurt's direction. He knows what I'm talking about. No, I know. I've been You sleep through it? That's rich. It's my alarm clock. I see it every morning. It wakes me up at 9:22. That's right. 9:22 in the morning and 4 seconds and 834 milliseconds today. There was a bit of a drift, and you have to be careful around Daylight Savings Day. But you got it right. It happens every day at around the same time. Remind me to show you the Celsius clock that we have down there that's calibrated to track the drift. It's some smart stuff. You boys into physics? No. The resyncs? They're perfect? Not big on small talk, are you? No, as you're insinuating, realignments aren't perfect. Hell, everything that happens between realignments isn't perfect either. I'm neither a physicist nor a theologist, but to me it always seemed kind of loosey-goosey. Organic was the term that the doctorates always used. Let me give you an example. That original construction crew, when someone's gone that way, when they merge with their mirror, they're gone. There is no way to unpass through the RLG. When the worlds realign, they don't bring back the person's mirror. So now there is a bunch of people running around doing their own thing on each world separately. You can imagine how this snowballs, right? Not long after, there is an entire platoon on either side trying to push their world in any which way. It gets more complicated. A mirrorless person on World B may force someone regular into the gate. This action doesn't happen on World A, right? So the regular person now exists on World A twice. That's how there's two of you, Mr. Abrams. Spencer here graciously led you down the gate without your knowledge, back when you two first met. Now, as you imagine, this leads to all kinds of wondrous consequences. Over the years, they've discovered that so many things leak through. Most striking is that if a mirrorless is instrumental to someone's death, it never carries over to the other side. God, the universe, what have you, tries its best to make things work despite it, to get things in line. But over time things become a mess. Impossible things start popping in and out of existence at any time and any place. The RLG is a phenomenon, see? It is cold and uncaring. Trying to reason with it is like asking an earthquake to reschedule. It has only one job. The worlds, their history, must be kept synchronized. And, if it needs to, it will rip the neurons right out of your head. Another example, less dramatic, more topical. Spencer and I get to keep our memories. What? I'm merged with my mirror, and Spencer is dead. There is nowhere to copy our memories over to. For you, on the other hand, unless I missed something, not only is your mirror still alive, but he is now here with us somewhere on World B. The RLG doesn't do what it does when both mirrors are on the same world. There's only one Kurt Abrams, even if two of them are running around. Let me be frank with you for a second. I'm surprised that you're still able to form a complete phrase. For most zombies that the RLG created, it took much less. What you've done with your mirror, all that coordination, how long have you been talking to something that doesn't exist? By all conventional wisdom, there shouldn't be much left of your mind. You can't remember? I remember sometimes. Other times I have to piece it together. It's like I know that I must have done something, but I can't remember having actually done it. Huh. What? What were you about to say? Aren't you gonna explain why that is? That part's actually straightforward. Every day, only one world gets to be dominant. It's either World A or World B. Everything that happened on the dominant world gets copied over to the non-dominant world, and everything that happened on the non-dominant world disappears. With the biggest asterisk that both parts of the process are far from perfect. That's basically it. That's why you remember things the way that you do. It's a side effect of being out of sync with your mirror. We've seen it 1,000 times. I see. Yeah? Things are starting to slide into place? That's it, huh? That's the story of the RLG. Don't look too excited now. So, what's so dangerous about it? Boy. Good question. As I said, with continued activity, the worlds drift increasingly apart. Remember how I said that the average Joe living out his average life is unlikely to cause any significant discrepancy to form? Well, what if Joe wasn't average? What if there were 2 or 3 Joes all doing whatever the hell they please? I'll tell you what happens. History starts having trouble welding itself back together. Before you know it, half the town is wiped off the face of the earth. Like what happened in 71? Yes. Like what happened back then. The administration were so sure that they buried the story. To think that you kids were able to piece it together. Good work. Kurt, are you still with us? Fisher upturns the remainder of his fries onto the tray and tosses a couple of small burnt ones whole in his mouth. I believe that I got my point across. And you don't like me, I get it. I don't like you either. But if there is one thing that I want you two to take away from this, is that you must stop fucking around. I'm gonna repeat this because I want to make it clear. You must stop fucking around. Don't fuck with the gate and don't fuck with me. Doesn't matter what your adolescent moral compass is saying. The risk far outweighs the reward. That's all that I had to say. Got it? Did I make myself clear? Why? Yes? Why are we having this conversation? Is your head screwed on right? Didn't I spend the last half hour explaining it? All you explained was how your haunted mansion works. My jaw scrapes open as if it had been closed for 1,000 years. I speak slowly. Words come to me a moment before they leave my mouth. You didn't explain us. Why are you talking to me? You started it, didn't you? You got the wheels turning in the first place. None of this would have happened if you didn't make me come here. What's in it for you? You're ruthless today, Spencer. I getcha. I see what you want me to say. Sadly for you, I meant what I said last time that we met. I wanted to meet my grandson. Is that so hard to believe? You fucking killed me. You fucking tried to kill me first. Ain't it beautiful how it works? You don't even remember. Little man, you tried to bash my head in with a rock. The only reason that I'm still standing is because you're a limp-wristed wimp. Bullshit. That's bullshit. Why'd I want to kill you if you're done nothing? You're making shit up. There were a lot of reasons to want me dead, Spencer. But why do you specifically want to kill me? Your guess is as good as mine. We were both getting along just dandy for a couple of weeks until I turned around and you're trying to cave my skull in. It doesn't matter. I've all but forgiven you and forgotten about it. It was all lost the moment that your mirror died. Now, I'm not going to pretend like this entire thing was not a massive mistake. I'm a big man. I make mistakes. This was one of them. I don't care what you think of me. What I want is for the town to not turn into dust. We don't have to be friends, but we have to be at peace with one another. For the last time, don't fuck with the gate. Do you understand? I understand. Great. Before we part ways, I want to leave you gentlemen with a couple of final thoughts. Think things over. Take your time. It's a lot to take in, and I don't want you to do anything rash. Spencer, let's meet up next Thursday, 9 a.m., down in the basement. My men will let you in. Only you. What's the point? The point? For one thing, we have to figure out what to do with Kurt. For another thing, your cooperation will give me some peace of mind. Peace of mind? We both know what you're thinking of, so as a deterrent, I'll disclose one last thing about the gate. Think back to what I said. Every morning, either World A or World B gets to be dominant. If World A is dominant, anything that happened on World B the prior day disappears. There is a missing piece of information here. How does the RLG choose which world is dominant? No one knows. We never figured it out. No one knows, except for me. That is my trump card. You won't outsmart me. Don't try. And I'll give you an out, Spencer, an alternative. If you don't show up next week, if you truly can't stand to live with me around, I advise you to run. Run far, far away. I'm tired. Exhausted. Like, I simultaneously ran a marathon and crammed for the calculus all while drinking a gallon of vodka. I'm in a state of hangover, in a world where hangovers never let up. That was it, huh? Using what little mental effort I can muster, I try to find the contradiction that would unravel Fisher's explanation into what it must be. A story, a tale to scare children out of venturing too deep into the woods, a bold-faced lie. His words and phrases come to me out of order, at random. Some words are suspicious. Behind some words there's hidden information, hidden threats. And yet, nothing else explains what I've gone through in the past week. Nothing that isn't even more outlandish. How ridiculous. How fucking absurd of me to ever doubt Ian and his gang of Scooby-Doos. Of course all the History Channel Ghost Hunters shit is real. Fisher said to think it over, so I do. I think myself a new headache on top of the old one. I think until I am no longer capable. When all that happens, I crawl under my blankets and sleep instead. Once I'm done sleeping, I turn over and go back to sleep. I sleep forever, beautifully uninterrupted, as though I had never slept before. When I can't sleep anymore, I'm not well rested. Every bone, every piece of cartilage, sinew throughout my body is buzzing for attention. I lie on my back, unable to twist in any which way to make myself comfortable and look at the bottom of the vacant bunk above. I memorize every square inch of the mattress fabric over the dim light coming in through the window from the street lamps below. I survey the welding on the frame. Once I'm satisfied, I turn to the wall. The grooves in the sloppy paint job keep my attention for hours. Then, 5:31, a catastrophe. I'm bored. What a cool situation that I've gotten myself into. 4 brain-dead security guards, 5 car crashes, the entire town losing a chunk of their IQ. That's on me, huh? I did that. Fisher said that I did that. I did not know that I did that, but if Fisher isn't lying, I did that. I did that and... that's it? No repercussions? Shouldn't I be getting my ass thrown in jail for the rest of my life? Fisher certainly behaved as if it's nothing. Meet me in a week for some tea and cookies, as if that's just the norm. How many people have been fucking with the gate? And how often? Were they more or less careful than I'd been? Didn't Andrew say that that insane shit has been going on in his town for as long as he can remember? God. I sit up on my bed, and it takes a few seconds for my nerve system to stab into my lower back. It's gotten hard enough to think that even pain comes slowly. Many thoughts come to me, but I can't engage with any of them, like I'm trying to grab something at the bottom of the river, but instead of water, it's a river of clay. That's what it must feel like to have your brain fried. And Kurt is supposedly even worse off? Is it permanent? Am I gonna feel like shit forever? Will I even be able to get a degree with half a functioning brain? I cough out a mute little laugh. What am I saying? Do I expect Fisher to keep paying for me to stay here? He's planning to fucking kill me. It's so obvious. My cooperation would give him peace of mind. Fuck off. I'm not cooperating with some evil smirking grandpa. He knows for a fact that I won't. This is too much. I'm in way over my head. I gotta get out of here. He told me to get out of here. Either get out of here or die. These were the options that I was presented with. There's nothing left to do, so screw all this, I guess. I want to go back home. I want to see Mom again. Hope that she doesn't notice that I can't do basic arithmetic anymore. I book a plane first thing in the morning. There's nothing here for me anymore. Well, no, that's not true. There is one thing. The other me, the other Spencer. Fisher claims that he doesn't know why I try to kill him. But that can't be right, can it? He'd spoken about killing me to my face, as though it was nothing, but there was no way that he'd get shy about something like that. A part of me doesn't care anymore. Some things are better left unknown, it tells me. It would be a waste of time. There is nothing that I can do about it either. Another part of me is screaming. The reason that I've gotten so deep in this shit is because I shoved my head in sand. What have I got to lose? There isn't any complicated planning. There is virtually no risk. All I have to do is walk up to him and ask. He'll tell me. Afterwards, I'll pack my shit and fly home. Spencer! Hi. Long time no... Are you okay? I'm fine. Hey, Ian. How good are you at keeping a secret? What? Do you know anywhere quiet? Somewhere that isn't under a bridge. I got a hell of a story to tell you. We drive west through downtown. High-rise buildings give way to suburban houses. At their edge, right as a sign's thanking us for visiting Rockland, Ian curves into a street. Not 100 yards pass before paved roads become gravel. Ian carefully navigates around the multitude of under-construction barriers as entire blocks of scaffolding and bare concrete surround us. Then suddenly we emerge out onto a state road. The depth of the cracks in the asphalt speak on how ancient this place must be. It's cold out here, but not entirely unpleasant. Despite the narrow, shoestring budget build, the bus stop succeeds in keeping us out of the weather. The perfect horizontal drizzle lightly taps on the tin, making a hum like an old TV stuck between channels. I don't need to raise my voice to tell my story to Ian. And I do tell him. At first I mask the details, but he huhs and uh-huhs at all the right places, asks all the right questions. I tell him what I've already told him so many times before. I tell him the stuff that's new, the things that I didn't yet have time to digest. Once I start talking, I can't stop. I'm back from the dead now, and I want him to know. That's a story. That it is. He flips the charm in his palm back and forth. And you're saying that I'll remember it this time around? If you remember it tomorrow, then you remember it forever, as far as I can tell. Huh. Sorry it sounds like bullshit. It's not that. No. Not a chance. I believe you. I think. I've never heard a more convincing account in my life. It's just that. He remains silent for a minute. I don't want to interrupt him. I've just confirmed that his wacky conspiracy theories are real and admitted to some pretty awful shit all at the same time. God knows that I'd be at a loss for words. What's the verdict? The verdict, huh? Gosh, I don't know. Like, you know all those stories about farmers getting abducted and probed by aliens? Your story is just like that. Like, you're the center of this massive government cover-up, and it's all a ploy to let swamp gas out of your ass. It's all a little... He makes a twisty gesture with his hands. You get what I'm saying? And I can't tell anyone because the world will end. Yeah, something like that. Maybe, probably. In not a fun way. Either that or the CIA gets our asses. Or Fisher does. I see. What? That's the part that gets me the most, you know. I've been following this stuff for years and I've never heard of this guy. Not until he approached me a couple of weeks ago to threaten me out of the blue. Well, that's his trick with a gate, right? One of the worlds gets overwritten, so he literally scrubs himself out of history. I wonder about that. What do you mean? Why would he decide to suddenly start approaching people so personally? How come both of us remember that he never showed up to deliver his speech? How can such a person afford to speak to me and you and a dozen other people? If he really is the cause of everything, if he's the poltergeist, that's just not how he behaves. And besides, don't things leak? Isn't that what he told you in so many words? It does align with what's been going on. Parts of your story, Spencer. He forcefully shoves the charm into his pocket. What parts? Never mind. The crazies we've been interviewing and the written down stuff that's been left behind. There is a reason that they've always thought it was some kind of entity. If what you're saying is true, we were right on the money about that. Most of our high-quality accounts refer to someone or something that they can't quite recall. All of them come to think of it. Anyway, I suppose that's that. What's what? I'll handle the group. If I can't tell them anything, then I'll have to come up with something to distract them with. Tell them that your involvement in it is all a big misunderstanding and is entirely benign. Will they believe that? Not likely. Thanks for trusting me with this. I can't follow him at all. Did I somehow miss half of what he was telling me? Is he mad at me or not? The gate must have fucked with my head after all. I'm gonna miss his stupid smile. Don't mention it. You like watching anything? Got a couple of episodes downloaded on my phone. Just like that, huh? Maybe in a bit. There's something that I want to ask you first. Me? Why? You got any more earth-shattering revelations? I'm hesitating. All the head voices who were screaming so loudly before are now silent. My tongue feels heavy in my mouth, and I'm once again aware of the pain that's everywhere. I pretend to stretch by slowly planting my palms on my knees. This is fear. Sort of. I recognize it as fear, but what am I suddenly so afraid of? It's just Ian. There is nothing to be afraid of. There's a hole in my story. I was hoping, that you would be able to help me with that. A hole? The day that I died. You remember it? My heart skips a beat. Smile's gone. I do. What of it? I have to keep going. There's nothing to lose. Let's get it done. Sorry to pressure you about it, but, you mentioned it before. We were friends for longer than I remember. And you were with me right before I died. It's just that no one is able to tell me what happened back then. Figured that I should ask. If you don't mind. The sound of rain occupies the air for a while. Ian sits hunched over, staring into the bushes opposite to us. I have no choice but to stare at them as well. I try calming myself down while he's thinking. Why don't my hands feel so weak? It's just this one loose end that's remaining. Once it's done, I'll be free. Yeah. We were together. On the day you died. The night before it, I mean. Damn. You know, I could tell that you were gonna ask about that. After telling me about the gate in the worlds and Fisher, yeah, there's no way that you wouldn't. Kind of, didn't expect to be going into that today, though. You caught me a little off guard. My fingers grip down on my knees. You don't have to if you don't want to. I bite down on my tongue. I didn't mean to say that. Is that really what you think, Spencer? I don't expect you to recall this, since apparently we've been seeing each other all the time in, the other world. But, from my perspective, you've been gone for a couple of weeks now. Do you happen to remember what was the last thing that you told me before you disappeared? We're mature adults. That's what you told me. You were talking about your dick. I've been thinking about it a lot, you know? About my dick? About being upfront about uncomfortable stuff, you jerk. After we had that conversation, after I told you about the group and everything, I thought I messed up. You stopped showing a class almost immediately and you never responded to messages or picked up your phone. Was that my fault? Right up until 20 minutes ago, I thought it was. It wasn't. That is a relief, but... I won't lie to you, Spencer. At first, it hurt real bad. But the more that I thought about it, the more I realized that you were right. Nothing would have improved had we not spoken about it at the time, or worse, had we decided to pretend nothing was going on at all. What you told me just now, the whole situation with this Fisher person only goes to show how true that is. No, I think I must tell you what happened that day. After you asked me about it, the genies aren't going to go back into the bottle. I straight up owe it to you. Most of it anyway. My stomach tightens. Maybe I should have kept my idiot mouth shut. Most of it? Give me a minute, you'll see. He puffs his cheeks out and slowly exhales. Alright, so... let's roll back to a couple of weeks after orientation. The big picture is that you and we've been hanging out for a few days by that point. I'd shown you what me and the group have been up to. Like, about the town and all the mysteries going on. In hindsight, you being friendly with that Fisher guy at the time explains why you were interested in what I had to say, but back then... it isn't every day that you met someone who's that enthusiastic about the paranormal. The opposite, actually, most often. I figured that you definitely want to join the group, so I spared no details. That day, I showed you something that you didn't like. I thought it over so many times that the memory is etched into the back of my skull. But the short of it is that you stood up and walked away. Just like that. Just like what? Walked away where? Did I say anything? Sure didn't. What did you show me? See, that's the part that I don't want to tell you. What do you think happened after you walked off that day? Oh. Yeah? You think that whatever you showed me got me killed? He takes his hand out of his jacket and feels for his phone in his pants pocket. He lightly thumbs against the metal seat. Yes, that's what I think. I spent weeks trying to figure out what exactly made you take off the way that you did. I mean, I have some ideas, but... He leans back and looks at the roof of the bus station as he takes a deep breath. Mere hours after I discovered your body, you came right back from the dead, behaving as if nothing happened. As if you didn't know who I was. So I told the group about it, and they kind of took it in a way that I didn't think that they would. They weren't confused or terrified or anything like I was. They were excited. I didn't know what to do or what to think, so I just joined them. Was that when you were doing your little investigation about me? Did you find anything? We did, but... But what? We never figured out how you are connected to that. Why did that make you flip out? What's that? His shoulders tighten. You're being awfully cool about this, don't you think? Can you really not see why I'm dancing around it? What? You're assuming the same thing will happen again? Don't worry about it. How can I not? I scratched the back of my neck. This is getting stupid. It isn't worth it to make him go through this just to sate my curiosity. I should stop. It is a bit of a leap to assume that, is all. Just because one thing happens and then another thing happens doesn't make them related. What if they are, though? What are the chances? Are you kidding? Like 100%. I can change the subject at any time. I could tell him, you know what, you're right, and forget all about it. I'll risk it. I'm not that same Spencer that died on that day. You'll risk it? Spencer, I'm telling you, Clear as day that you'll die. You didn't believe me when I said that you were a ghost or whatever either. Can you please cut me some freaking slack? I think my entire chest cavity tries to pull the words from leaving my mouth. I think I have to know. Do I? Fisher killed me. He killed me and he's saying that it was in self-defense, that I tried to kill him first. I can't stop thinking about it. The gate punched holes in my memory, so much so that I can only recall bits and pieces of the past year. That other Spencer, he's me, but he's also literally not. I don't know the things that he knew. And it haunts me that I am not him, and yet I am the same person in a sense. What could possibly be so important to me that I'd try to kill someone over it? Besides, I'm totally bracing for it. I promise that I won't run off and get myself killed. My jaw tightens. Why must he keep looking at me like that? Spencer, I'm not stupid. I know that it must be important to you. It's just that... You don't get it, do you? You couldn't begin to imagine how relieved I was when you showed up at the 7-Eleven that evening. I didn't know what to make of you. Like, who were you actually? You behaved as if you didn't know me, as if you fell right out of the sky. But then and there, I couldn't care less because you were alive. You don't know what it's like. Not to get overly sentimental, but remember when you asked me about the time that I crashed my car? My family, Andrew, everyone is saying that it's an act of God. It could have happened to anyone. They forgave me, that sort of thing. But my brother, you know, none of that will bring him back. None of that changes that I killed him. And then I killed you. Don't you get what I'm saying? You want me to kill you again? Spencer, you kinda suck. He's shaking. I'm barely able to keep my breath steady. My stomach feels like I'm being wrung inside out. Just tell me what it was so that we can be done with it. You didn't kill anyone. I got my own damn self killed. And it won't happen a second time. I swear. I'm not gonna let it go, huh? Guess I tried my best. It's a freaking forum post. That's what killed you, a forum post. Ian fumbled with his phone while scratching at his eyes with the sleeve of his jacket. Teal fills up Ian's phone screen. His eyes dance around the page for a minute, but then he clicks the screen off and puts the phone back down. Christ. Okay. A couple of years ago, a bunch of shit went down, like it was crazy. Shootings, a massive fire in the middle of downtown, the entire jury for a minor breaking and entering case all died in 3 separate accidents. Those are just 3 things that happened at the height of it, but they all happened within the span of 1 week. The police launched investigations on all of them, but as with everything else that's been happening, they ended up finding nothing. The thing is, the whole year has been like that. Was that when the car crash rate tripled? Yeah. You know about it? You told me. Oh. Right, of course. I see. You were asking me about it. and I was showing you bits and pieces of what we managed to dig up. There was a lot. That is, a lot of news articles were written during the time, and some of them went into great detail. There wasn't almost ever any follow-up though. They'd report on something and the police would find nothing, only for something else to happen after a few days to take everyone's attention away. That is what 2008 was like over here. And then it stopped, right? Yeah. Right before Christmas, everything stopped. You wanted to know about that. He softly clears his throat. We went through a lot of material. I can't remember how we got there, but it seemed like one case in particular got your attention, something that happened in April of that year. A medical specialist from out of state had been called in to help the local sheriff's office. By that point, things had gotten scary bad. I was still in rehabilitation at the time, but I remember my mom asked me to never go out past 8. It seemed appropriate for the county to start bringing experts in. That was the first article. The second and last mention of that person in the media was a short excerpt in the middle of a longer opinion piece. That excerpt was missing, and the article's author presumed that they were called back home. I let out the breath that I'd been holding in. That doesn't tell me anything. About what? I mean, it doesn't ring any bells. I don't know why I do anything given this information. Oh. Well, thank you, Spencer. But there's more. Go on. Yeah, alright. Much later on, Todd's friend ran into a series of forum posts that seemed relevant. It was in the general chatter section of the Hardbend forums, which is a long-defunct metalhead magazine. The post's author was a user going by GothVicer, with a 0 instead of a O. Jake tracked him down through the Institute's message boards, where he used to use the same name. His real name is Antonio Reese, and he never kept his name or that he's from Rockland a secret online. One of those what's the worst that could happen kind of folks, to give you some context. Antonio, or GothVicer, was a mortuary technician at Rockland County Memorial Hospital. And this guy, GothVicer, he left nothing more than to complain to his little group of forum friends. If I remember right, he'd had like 7,000 posts, most of which came from that same general chatter sub-forum. As you imagine, exactly the kind of guy my group wishes for in our wildest dreams. He spoke at length about how this out-of-state goody two-shoes doesn't know the first thing about morgues or corpses. We learned from him that the guy was an ICU doctor. Apparently, police detectives showed up one day with him in tow without prior warning. GothVicer never gets specific about what the ICU doctor wanted with them, but he does say that they had interviewed all the morgue's employees multiple times for multiple hours each time. This goes on for a couple of days, but eventually, it seems that the doctor runs out of questions. Taking up space in the office while he's waiting for the feds to come pick him up, I believe was how GothVicer phrased it, something to that effect. A few days later, he reports that the doctor had stopped coming in. Here's the thing though. GothVicer doesn't simply state that the doctor is gone. Given his personality, one would expect him to go, "Good riddance," and never mention it again. But he does more than just that. He keeps mentioning it in passing over the next month, in an almost accusatory way. Like small things. His favorite pen had gone missing from his shirt. He jokes that the doctor must have misplaced it weeks ago. Secretary was rude to him. The doctor must have spoken to her while he was there. When he inevitably gets fired because his mental well-being had gone down the drain, you bet the doctor was to blame. We were enthralled to find the forum argument that ensued. That's how we knew that we were on the right track. That's how it always goes. The calling card of our poltergeist. Something goes missing, and then someone goes insane. A couple of forum members have a falling out with GothVicer over Skype. We never found out the logs for that, but thankfully they took it to the forums shortly thereafter. They're all incredibly rude to him in the moment, but I get the impression that they cared about GothVicer. They were trying to figure out what was wrong with him. Who was this damn doctor that he had lost his mind over? GothVicer doesn't remember. That's another common thread amongst people like him. It's the same with the folks we interviewed ourselves. Everyone has a different trigger, a different thing that they obsess over, but when you ask them about it, it quickly becomes clear that they don't remember what that was. Ian pinches at his screen to zoom in. Just before getting banned for saying some racist crap out of nowhere, he gets into this huge argument that goes on for multiple pages. Pretty much everyone is convinced that the doctor is either an illusion or something that GothVicer made up. A bunch of his friends are begging him to go seek professional help. With his back against the wall, he finally tells everyone what he actually remembers. As we expect, it is almost nothing at all, but he spills it all out in one rambling post. We tried reaching out to him, but he doesn't answer emails, he doesn't seem to use the same online handle anymore, and even the phone number he registered to the institute with now belongs to someone else. What did the post say? He flips his phone screen side down on his thigh. You can see where I'm coming from though, right? This is some cool stuff. I was so excited to share it with you. And it isn't like this GothVicer guy. He's just half of a dozen other people that I've shown you. Other online crazies just like him. How was I supposed to know that this one would be the one to make you lose your shit? What did the post say? Christ. See for yourself. Sorry it's in a scrunched out vision. It's a screenshot of my PC. I am not on dope. LMFAO. Are you 13? The execs made everyone without a master's degree in a cup twice a year. I am cleaner than all of you, heads combined. M1 Crowave. Be a dear and actually read my previous post. Same with you, Gangerguns. Does it say anywhere that the doctor is talking to me? Didn't think so. What is not clicking? Why are none of you heads believe something as simple as some sociopath showing up and deciding to ruin my whole life? It happens all the time. It could happen to you. Actually, it should happen to you to teach you a lesson. Short guy, 40 or 50 years old. Blue suit and tie that are a bit too big. High voice, nasty bloodshot eyes. There, I'm describing him. Is that doing it for you? Do you believe me, Ed? I literally only spoke business with him. Confidential stuff. I literally can't say what I was talking to him about if I ever want to find work again. Lol. I will say this though. He was after someone. That was his number one problem that he kept talking about over and over. Completely unrelated to anything that he was asking us about, but he was losing sleep over it. Almost felt sorry for him. Almost. LMAO. I overheard him talking about it with the detectives on the first day before the interview started. He was after that man. No clue who that was. You know, the guy looks like a mess, and it's because someone in his dreams. And at work, you're supposed to be a nice guy. I asked him about it in the lounge. You know what he told me? The way he said it, it's like he rehearsed it 1,000 times. I'll never forget it until the day I die. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "It is my worst and most frequent nightmare. That man has to be stopped." Did you finish reading? Can I have my phone back? So, got any idea what that's all about? Spencer? Where are you going? There isn't anything around for miles. Oh God. Stop. You promised that you wouldn't. I'll fucking run you over myself, you asshole. Spencer! The man rang our doorbell 3 years ago, March 23rd, 2007, 8:53 p.m. He introduced himself as Nelson Fisher, born John Swain, a member of the Rockland Looking Glass Veteran Association. Despite the late hour and the lack of prior notice, we let him in. We offered him water. Where was Rockland? Did he say John Swain? That was the name of my grandfather on my dad's side. Any relation? This man, Fisher, my grandfather. Having entered the house, he spent barely any time at all before getting right to it. He knew us. He knew that Mom can't keep a job, and he knew that I can barely manage to graduate high school. He spoke about our pasts, our recent pasts, private details that no one besides us should be able to recall. We were shocked, naturally, but the man predicted our protests word for word and rejected them before they even left our lips. Speechless, we were forced to let him explain. There was a wondrous device down in Rockland. A natural phenomenon, entirely unique, harnessed by man. It was the mechanisms behind his nigh divine ability to pull up the past and predict the future. There had once existed a large-scale project surrounding the device, its research and utility. Hundreds of people ended up contributing to it, hundreds of others like the man. Things, however, didn't last. The device had a great problem, and in the early 70s, the entire project had been permanently shut down. The longer Fisher's speech went on, the more passionate he became. He told us of the years following the project's closure, of administrative failure after the administrative failure. The man was forced to change his identity, cut ties with his wife and infant son, live a life of anonymity. All to protect the project's secrecy. It had great military tactical importance after all. In return, he and every other person retiring from the project would receive a generous stipend that guaranteed never having to work a day for the rest of one's life. The Rockland Looking Glass Veteran Association was born. The man jeered the words out, called it a bribe from the government. A bribe that almost all of his peers gladly took. And then, the man smiled and apologized. Inexplicably said that he never got this far, that he won't bother us for much longer. He must catch the flight back home. Mom, ever the bravest, asked him, "What do we have to do with it?" The man replied that he's getting old, and he wishes to make up for lost time. His former peers have steadily been diminishing in numbers. They have all lived quiet, unimpactful lives of isolation until the day they died, exactly as the administration had arranged for all those years ago. He wasn't planning on anything grandiose, far from it. Association members aren't allowed to exit Rockland, he explained. He had to utilize the device privately just to speak to us. What he wanted was twofold and relatively simple. Fisher wanted to reconnect with his family, and more importantly, he wanted to pass down his knowledge of the Rockland Looking Glass. I remember it. That's quite enough, Mr. Fisher. Even if what you're saying is true, it's also sudden. Please leave your number with us. When we reach a decision, we'll give you a call. What an insane proposition from an insane man. Leave our entire lives behind and move in with some stranger who'd done nothing but threaten us. Who in their right mind would agree to something like that? Oh, I remember it all right. We never called. It was him who called us. At first, we brushed him off, made excuses as to why we can't speak tonight. But now isn't a good time quickly turned to, I've only got half an hour. Many evenings, when I would pass by the living room, I would overhear them chatting away. As the conversations grew longer, despite listening in to only one side of the call, I managed to piece some things together. The man had secured a fraudulent position at the Rockland County Clerk's office and was re-establishing ties with old colleagues in the town college. He never made attempts to hide his intentions. He wanted us in Rockland and made progress towards sweetening the deal. Over time, the now hour-long phone calls, conversations grew heated. Even outside his boastful disregard of the law, the man had a strange outlook on society and on life. An outlook that became increasingly difficult to wave off as the ramblings of an out-of-touch retiree. I withdrew to my room. I couldn't stand the yelling. Why can't this felon take a hint? Why did he have to stick his nose into our lives? Then, one day, the shouting had reached a boiling point. We received no more phone calls after that. A year later, Rockland was set ablaze. It was Mom who first discovered it. Fisher had presented himself as powerful and dangerous, and Mom hated getting blindsided by people like him. We observed in distant curiosity as week after week a new strange occurrence would break local news. Despite the severity of the incidents, they would rarely reach the national level, and whenever they did, it was a comma, a statistical outliner on a marginally related graph. I looked it up online. In some communities, Rockland had become a bit of a joke, a backwater murder county where law enforcement is impotent and all the officials are corrupt. Dread got the better of us. It couldn't be him, could it? On November 1st, 2007, over dinner, we decided that we should call, just in case. The daily shouting returned, stronger than ever. On the evening it got unbearable, I decided to peek out of my room. Dad sat in the living room, eyes wide, expressionless, looking through the turned-off TV. When he spoke, it was like he intended only for the walls to hear. The old man has gone insane, he said. He's erasing people off the face of the earth. I remember? Huh. Sorry you got dragged into it, Spencer. This is my fault. I'll take care of it, I promise. I'll find a way to sort it out. No, that's wrong. That's not what happened. I remember. The hospital Dad worked at, St. Mary's, refused to go through with the procedure. Kidneys aren't a rare organ donation, and it's not like the patient is in any critical condition. He should just wait his turn like everyone else. But Dad was adamant. He argued and yelled. He and the patient were a perfect match. He was in the perfect health. The surgery was routine. In the end, we drove 30 miles to the South Memorial Hospital. It was the next best thing. A throng of people showed up to Dad's funeral. People whose lives he saved, childhood friends and colleagues, even a couple of people who he sometimes helped getting their meds refilled. It was only then that I found out what happened. Mom had no idea how to explain it to a 10-year-old child. He didn't have to die. Some of the attendings told me. It was his damn personality. Dad was always pulling stunts like that, and it was only a matter of time until it caught up to him. One person even got on one knee to console me at eye level. Their sentiment was similar to that of everyone else. What a waste. A couple of weeks later, the last person helping Mom out stopped showing up to our house. That is what I remember. I remember it clearly, but... Amy, Spencer. I'm flying down to Rockland tomorrow morning. I can't stand it any longer. I can't think. I can't focus on anything besides it. He's the reason that I can't sleep. I don't care anymore if what he claims is true. That he really is my long-lost father. What he's doing to that town. It has become my worst and most frequent nightmare. That man has to be stopped. That's funny. That can't be right, can it? I was 10 when Dad died, so... either 10 or 11. 1998 for sure. I remember... was it spring? The leaves, they were... July? No, that wouldn't make sense. When did Dad die? I remember it. It was so cold when they told me. Late evening. No, the lights were... Say, when did Dad die? Hey, snap out of it. Just say it. No one could forget something so important. When did it happen? Come on, ballpark estimate. First thing that comes to mind. Just recall it real quick. When was it? When did Dad die? And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So, it appears that Mr. Nelson Fisher, or Mr. John Swain, the grandpa of Spencer, is apparently behind the death, or I guess disappearance, of Spencer's father. Which, I mean, seems kind of obvious because I think that he sort of alluded to it before. The grandfather, I mean, Mr. Fisher. My guess is that he tried to show him that whole like tunnel thing and like try to be like, oh hey, you should, go through it and whatever. But Spencer's father was not having any of it. And that probably ended it with there being some sort of scuffle or fight or something. And that ended probably with Mr. Fisher killing Spencer's father. That is probably also maybe what happened when the other Spencer found out, he read the article and then realized that his father was saying the exact same thing that this doctor was also saying. And it all, again, pointed right back to Mr. Fisher, so he went to confront him, and then probably Mr. Fisher wouldn't tell him anything. He was probably just dancing around the whole issue. And then Spencer, probably having none of it, decided to attack Mr. Fisher, but Mr. Fisher overpowered him and strangled his grandson. And I have to wonder if the other Spencer realized that was going to happen, or realized that there might be a possibility of that happening, so he had Kurt take the other Spencer and then cross him over so that there would be a guarantee that there would always be like a Spencer, which would throw a wrench in Mr. Fisher's little plans, because it's like, oh, I killed my grandson, so now I won't have to deal with him. But then all of a sudden his grandson shows up again, and now there's two Kurts. I mean, for the issue of Kurt, I believe that it would be a good idea to figure out which Kurt is which, and then send the other one across the tunnel, and just, have them there so that both Kurts are in separate worlds, and that they're not being, that they're not affecting each other. And with the issue with the grandfather, though, then you have to confront him again, but how are you going to do it if this guy is willing to kill his own son and his own grandson? Yeah. I also wonder if, because there was no other Spencer in the other world, meaning when Spencer crossed over the second time with Mr. Fisher, or was forced to cross over, if the reason why he kept waking up at 9:22 because of like the whole like trying to sync both worlds, that there was nothing to sync with for Spencer in the other world that he didn't belong in or something. So that's why he kept being like out of the loop. He could not wake up in the next day. And I wonder if the mortuary assistant that kept saying that this guy kept showing up and he looked like he was so disheveled, he looked like he looked horrible, meaning Mr. Fisher. I wonder, because Mr. Fisher joined with his other self. So I wonder if not having somebody else in the world that you don't belong in has adverse effects on your health. It makes you relive the same day over and over and over while the whole world keeps going by. So, Anyway, so what are your thoughts? Write it down in the comments. And thank you all for watching / listening. We're almost at the end. There's one more chapter left. And yeah, so thank you all for watching / listening. And if you would like to play 922 yourself, you can do so by going down to the link in the description, which should have a direct link for the itch.io page where you can download the game. They do not have any form of support, so unfortunately there's nothing there to link for them. So far, I really like the story. It's very confusing, but it's also... It's confusing, but it's also telling you what's going on. You just have to figure it out as it's progressing. But then, like in the next chapter, they explain what's going on, and then but they introduce new stuff. So yeah. Anywho, so yeah, so all other pertinent links down in the description. It's like if you want to become a channel member, watch these videos ahead of time. Become a channel member. It helps support the channel. Because it's like a monthly donation in a way. And for all the people that were supporting the channel like a year ago, that it helped improve the equipment and stuff. Also helps livelihood-wise. If you want to make a one-time donation, there is the Ko-fi link down in the description as well, or on the page. And if you're feeling generous, there is a Throne link, but like I already know, we're going to be having a hard time these next 4 years, so, it's no biggie if you can't donate or anything at all, so yeah. Anywho, so yeah. I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video, the conclusion of 922.